This is tutorial 1 in a two-part tutorial that introduces the basic concepts of AutoCAD. In this tutorial, we will cover how to bring in a raster image and trace over it in order to create an editable vector drawing. It will happen on occasion that you want to start your AutoCAD drawing with an existing map of a city, an existing plan of a building, and so this is a technique that you can use. Make sure whenever you start a new drawing that you're selecting the ACAD.dwt template and that the first thing you do is set the units for the project. So type UN is the keyboard shortcut. And once again, even though we're going to be working on a large scale drawing, we're going to start with architectural units, but any units that you are familiar with can be made to work. We're going to use the command Xref in order to bring in a PDF file that will scale and place and trace over. The keyboard shortcut is XR for Xref, which stands for external reference. An external reference is a file that is linked and that you can see in the drawing, but it hasn't been inserted. Click this Attach Reference button to open a dialog box. In this case, I'm going to select my tax map as a PDF and click Open. In the next box I want to go ahead and leave my input coordinates at 0, 0. I'm going to leave my input angle at 0 and my input scale factor at 1, so I don't want to specify anything on screen. The path type is either full path or relative path are your options. I tend to work with relative path, although since I haven't saved my file yet, I can't do that. But I tend to think that relative path is more user-friendly. That means if I open my files on another computer, remember these are just referenced files, they're just links. So if I open this file on another computer, as long as I maintain my folder structure, so project 2, and then perhaps I have a folder inside project 2 that says Xrefs, as long as I maintain that, it doesn't matter which computer I open this on, the links will still be maintained. With full path, it's going all the way back to C:, Carmen Trudell, AutoCAD, tutorial, and it's going to look for that entire path. Then if I move to another computer, that path would not be found. So I'm going to go ahead and say attach. And it might look like nothing happened, but I can see here in my reference manager that the drawing has been inserted. So I want to use my zoom extents, Z enter, E enter, to see my drawing. And there it is. And notice the PDF comes in beautifully. Because the PDF is white, there's one thing I would like to do, and that's to make my crosshairs a different color so that I'm not trying to trace with white on white. So options is the keyboard command. And then in the Mac version, it's under cursor and selection. And then under crosshair color, I'm going to go ahead and pick a color that I don't normally draft with and say OK. And that way I can see my crosshairs a little bit more clearly. The next thing we're going to do is scale the map. Remember in CAD, in model space, we always draw 1 to 1. So 1 foot in real life is 1 foot in the CAD drawing. If your drawing has a graphic scale, as this one does, then that's wonderful. We will use that as our starting point. So I'm going to zoom in so that I can see it a little bit more clearly. Make sure you can still see the edge of the image in your window. Let me close my Xref manager so we have a little more space. Now we're going to use the scale tool, so SC is the keyboard shortcut. Select the boundary of the image. You want to select the edge of the image. Notice that it highlights. Enter or right mouse click. Specify my base point, so in this case I'm going to select the 0 of my scale. You might want to zoom in, get your cursor as close as possible to that 0, 0. And the next thing I want to do is see how on my cursor it says specify scale factor or, and there's a little down arrow. If you hit the down arrow on your keyboard, it will open up that menu to show me what additional options I have in this command. Also, you should notice that the command line is prompting me with the same options. So if I knew to look down here, I could just hit R for reference, or now I can select reference at my cursor. So my reference length, I want to go from 0 to 100 on the graphic scale. So I need to pick at 0 again, then click at the 100 mark. Again, I'm trying to be as straight, so I might even hold my shift key so it locks my ortho mode, and click at the 100. And now my new length, I'm going to type in 100 and the symbol for feet and hit enter. Again, it looks like my file disappeared, so let me type Z enter, E extenter, enter to zoom to the extents of my drawing. And now let's do a little check to make sure that that's scaled properly. I will use the distance command, and I want to measure between 0 and 100 and see what it's measuring. So DI is the distance command. So let me click here at 0, click again at the 100, and you'll see that AutoCAD I'm at about 100 feet 2 inches. And again, when you're working with a raster file, that's pretty darn close. If you felt like you could do better, you could always do scale reference one more time and try to get it a little bit closer. It's also good practice to just use the distance command a couple of other places in the drawing. So for example here, I know this is 103 feet, so I'll do distance again. And it looks like right there I'm at 102 feet and 9 inches, so that's looking pretty good. Now would be a good time to save your file. The next thing I would like to do is rotate the image, and you'll have to make a choice here. You can rotate the image so that north points directly up, as we often do advise, or you can rotate the image so that the grid of the city or the grid of your parcel is orthographic, and that's what I'm going to show you. You also can do something which is called setting up a UCS, which is a coordinate system for your file, and each file can have multiple UCSs, so I could have a UCS for north and a UCS for orthographic. That's something that I would suggest that you Google and watch a YouTube tutorial on, is how to create a UCS, a Universal Coordinate System. For now, I'm just going to show you how to rotate the image so that this portion is perfectly horizontal. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, make sure that you can still see a boundary edge of the image. And the command is rotate, RO. Select the image, enter or right mouse click to accept. Now I'm going to specify a base point, and I'd like to specify this corner of this block, make it a little closer. Again, for my rotation angle, I'm going to hit my down arrow key and rotate with a reference. So my reference angle is taken from the image. And to turn on my ortho mode, you can either hit this button. On Windows laptops, you can hit the F8 key, or on Mac computers, you can hit the function key plus the F8 key to turn your ortho mode on. Click again, and I've just rotated the image so that this line should be perfectly horizontal. Just to test and see how I did, let's draw a horizontal line. And that looks pretty good. The last thing in this first segment of the tutorial that I'd like to show you is just simply to move your file to a known location so that you could potentially layer other files on top of it, or that you can work in a team and always know that your files will come together on top of each other in the proper location. So you and your team should decide what's the origin of your drawing? So perhaps we may decide that this corner right here at Morrow and Marsh, this intersection should always be the origin, and every time you move between files or you link other files, you'll put that corner, Morrow and Marsh, at the 0, 0 origin of the drawing. So I'm going to use the move command. M is the keyboard shortcut, select my object, and then zoom in so that I can use this intersection. I'm going to get as close as I can. Now I'm going to do what's called entering absolute coordinates. So I want to tell AutoCAD to use this point, the 0, 0, 0 of the drawing file, and in order to enter the absolute coordinate, I first have to hit the hashtag or the number key, and then type 0, 0, 0, enter. And now you can see that the image file has been moved so that it's right on top of what's called my UCS icon, where my X and Y are located in the drawing. So I've now placed that corner at the origin of the drawing. Another good time to save and move on to tutorial number 2.